Welcome back to the Dive Podcast. My name is Joe Butch. I'm the lead pastor at Grace Point Community Church, and we have a different location this week and a table full of people with us. And let's do introductions from Dustin down.
My name is Dustin. You've seen me before. I missed last week, but I'm back. But I'm pretty sure last week was a lot better because I wasn't here.
Thank you, Pastor Sarah, for being on the show.
Yes,
Sarah. But it's good to be back.
Hey, and I'm Brad. Yeah, it's great to be what is this, fourth episode? Crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at us.
Four of
Who
those.
said it wouldn't last?
Yeah.
And a newbie.
I'm Seth. Yep, my first episode.
Glad you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Seth's the youth pastor.
Who is this? What is this place?
Yeah, right, yeah. I was just walking by outside and they told me to come in. Just have me in front of a mic. Brad's outreach pastor, and Dustin is volunteering and helping with our technology and things like that. I got a nice compliment last week that someone said, "You're all's internet, or it was social media interactions are like a church of 1,000 people." And I was like, "Oh wow, that was nice of you to say," but I don't know what that.
And then I got here and realized that it wasn't.
Yeah. But this week we started our Christmas series, and so traditionally at Grace Point we have a lot of people who are gifted in preaching, and so we do a schedule of rotation for the month of December. And Pastor Brad kicked us off this, because it's December now, which is crazy, kicked us off with an awesome message about the shepherds in fear and just how God interacted with them in the story and what that means for us. So why don't you drive us this, I almost said this morning, but you got to keep this evergreen, right? So during this podcast here, Bradford.
Yeah. So as I prayed for this message and trying to find what God wanted, I just knew that I had always loved the viewpoint of the shepherds and the thought of them being some of the lowest and some of the unforgotten. And so we kind of talked about that in the beginning about the shepherds being kind of a supporting role. And my brain's kind of funny, so immediately I went to movies and television shows and leading actors and leading men and women, and the shepherds wouldn't have been that at all. Yeah, those
Supporting.
yeah, they would have been, and
They probably volunteer.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't have even been the best supporting actors. Those guys would have been down on.
Who's your favorite supporting actor?
Oh, that's a great question.
I just asked it right now. Boom.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
welcome.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I have a disadvantage to this, so I'm going to let you guys answer.
Do villains count? So, because I have a theory that, for a movie to be good, you have to have a good. But you're looking for somebody that is a supporting role, like they're on the same side as the protagonist, right?
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Like Hercules, one of my
that
favorite
furthers
movies.
So the point that we made was that it furthers the story.
Yeah.
That makes it compelling.
So, like Phil from
Yeah,
Hercules
yeah.
would be a supporting.
Yeah.
That's not my favorite, by the way.
Okay.
But I mean,
I'm
that's
pretty sure Sam from the
I
Lord
was going to say that was
going to be yours. Okay.
That's
That's
the
the Christian one.
God, that's not just the Christian one. That's the right answer. I mean, if there's a right answer, if I can't carry it for you, then I'll just carry you. And just beautiful. I cry every time I'm part of that movie. But we all need a Samwise in our life.
True. So I love the movie Shawshank Redemption is
Ooh.
top 10 for me.
Yeah.
So Morgan Freeman in Shawshank is a good supporting role.
Thinking him as a supporting role is just insane, isn't
Right. So that was
Thinking Morgan Freeman as a supporting
some of the reading that I did was who has won Best Supporting Actor over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Guys like Jack Nicholson have won. All of these leading men that you think,
Yeah.
well, that's not what he won.
Oh, you're right. That's
but,
not.
But yeah, he just all of these big leading men that I thought were amazing lead actors.
Hey,
supporting guys.
sometimes you got to be supporting too.
Yeah, you got to bring in that money, I guess. So they got to pay the bills.
So how are the shepherds a supporting act in the story here?
So, like I said, they if you watched Sunday sermon, which I hope you did, but if you didn't, they were very much the lowest of the low. They would have been the step up from the lepers, and most of the time they wouldn't have been a supporting actor in a story. They would have not even been in the story. But these guys, they are the first people that the angels tell the gospel to, which I'm getting goosebumps to think about it now. That these guys that were the lowest of the low, or at least a slightly step up.
But that's who God uses. I mean, you
most
go
of
all
the
back to
time,
Moses. That's all he wanted to do. Moses is like, I just want to look at these sheep all day. I'm done doing everything else.
Yeah.
God pulls him out.
Hey,
You
man.
meet David.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They goes through all the brothers. It was like, no, you have one more. Where's the other one?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he's watching sheep.
Joseph
Yeah.
gets, he's the less of the brothers, but they were shepherds and
Well,
out in the fields.
I think we've all been involved in some way in youth ministry before. I think Dustin, right? Have you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, this made me think of at one time someone asked me, hey, when are you going to be
You're
a
the
real
low.
pastor?
You're the low.
Like, like when I was a youth pastor, like when are you going to go out and be a real pastor? And I'm like, real pastor? What do you mean? Like, do you want to talk about wrangling? Like, do you want to deal with the students? Like that is not easy. Like little kids, you can scare them a little bit. They'll still listen to you. Teenagers,
That's 100%.
they don't feel that way anymore,
No,
right?
there's
So like,
Yeah.
it made me think of that in in youth ministry. I'm sure you never feel like a shepherd or
No, you
hook them back in.
herding cattle or anything like that.
Yeah.
Cats.
Yeah,
Herding cats.
kittens.
Cattle's
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they end up being, and it's probably something people don't think about too often. That they're the first people on the planet, besides, I guess, like Mary and Joseph, right? Because the angels talk to them in their dream. But like, they're right on the front wave of hey, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, and the Bible doesn't say this, and I took a little bit of creative liberty with it, but I gotta think that part of that is because God, he loves the littlest, the least of these, right? That's part of his nature and his love for us.
It might not state it right there.
Yeah.
But if you look at the body of work,
Right.
it makes that statement is made throughout.
Totally.
And so it makes perfect sense when you hear it and you're like, oh, of course. Like he's not going to drop in and tell the kings. Like he's going to be like, hey, listen, shepherds. People, what'd you say? They were one step above a leper, which is leprosy. If you had leprosy, then it was you couldn't live amongst people. People couldn't, if they touched you, they had to do all kinds of different like cleansing processes and like that was just something that don't look up pictures of that.
Yeah,
don't do it.
It's still something that's
really
happening in the world, but we don't want to mess with it.
So like for them to be just a step above that
Yeah.
would have meant, you're right, like they're not even the extras in the movie. They would be the people you think are extras, but they're really like AI computer generated in the
Yeah,
background.
right.
And it's like, oh yeah, we didn't pay those guys. What do you mean
In the
pay?
video game world,
Yeah.
that would be.
But that's who the angels show up to and tell about Jesus. And I love the picture you painted about them, like, because in my brain I always think they had like a GPS and just went. And I know they followed, like, I get it, star, all that good stuff. Like they knew where to go. But you're right, not exactly. Like they wouldn't have known exactly where to go.
I wouldn't think so. They would have been again so reviled that they wouldn't have wanted to talk to people, or people wouldn't have wanted to talk to them. They
Probably
would have
both
been
ways.
dirty. Yeah, they would have been dirty. They would have been unclean because they don't get to go in for the ritual cleansing that the lepers got, or anyone else. They would have missed temple regularly, and then they would have been looking for a baby that was born in a manger, which would have been odd, but could have still happened in a busy town.
Any
So-
babies in here? Like,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
babies in here.
Yeah, right. So they would have taken a little bit of a route to get there. I think tradition's funny, right? Christmas traditions. We sing songs about the star leading and the angels singing and all of that stuff, but some of it isn't necessarily biblical. Not that it's bad, but it's just not maybe the way that it was.
I know. I think it's really important to know that you're important regardless of where you are in life.
Yeah.
Because like so many people, God, if the shepherds were that low, and there's so many people that probably go to church or live their life and they're like, man, I have no talents. The shepherds, they just watch sheep all day.
Yeah.
How hard can that possibly? It's probably hard, but
Just stay awake.
yeah, no.
That's your number
But,
one
like,
job. Like,
people-
don't fall asleep.
So many people are probably like, man, I don't have any talents. God can't use me. God can't this. And God's like, no, I can use you. All I care about is your willingness to want to be used.
Yeah. Your
Yeah.
best ability is your availability.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That's a
So
t-shirt.
and I think that, there was somebody at a church once and I also think that like no job is less than another job in God's kingdom. God can use every position.
Yeah.
Like I had somebody that like I pulled out of Sunday school, like they were teaching Sunday school, and I'm like, yes, I don't think it's for you, or at this time. And I made them a greeter, and they were upset at me because they thought that being a greeter was less or they sung. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
and in my mind, I'm like, you have to understand, like, well, one, I think the greeter is the most important position. That's the first contact you come in contact, people that knew people, whatever. I think the greeter is one of the most, but like, I think that we should take every job that we have and do it for Jesus, and God can use the lowest of the low.
Shepherd, youth pastors.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Well,
it's some of the easiest groups to push aside are like kids and teens.
Oh,
I like to say students because but
They don't give any money.
it's for real. Like a lot of churches don't put effort into their children and youth ministries because they're like, well, we don't get anything back from that. Like, all the money we pour into that. I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't get anything back from that. Like, if you can build strong, I know the stats, and I know that it's hard to keep a student from going from graduating high school to coming to church and all that. But like,
Sure,
you could be laying the foundation for someone's eternity
100%.
to be changed, right? And it's like, oh, but
Somebody else will do it.
they're not worth as much, right? I don't know. We have a guy that does that, you know.
You have anything to say?
I agree.
And that's straight from the youth pastor.
I agree. Hey, that's what we want him to say. Okay.
yeah, he's a yes man.
I concur.
Yeah, no,
He's not.
he's way better than that. But even people of the church, a lot of times, I think Dustin hit on it a little. They can come in, they can feel insignificant. They can feel, well, I don't hold a position. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a door greeter.
Yeah.
I'm just coming in and filling a pew, right? And man, that is so important as well, because I've always looked at ministry as, 10 to 15% of what we do on Sunday mornings, and then like 85% out in the world, right? Like,
For sure.
so I think the statistic I read, 52% of all Americans deal with not being seen or not feeling heard and all of that stuff. And I think we can fall into that trap if we're not careful on a Sunday morning and just, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to sing a couple of songs and listen halfway and then go home, and that's going to be it. But then there's so much more to it than that.
And you were hitting on fears. Because like almost every time an angel shows up, biblically, the first thing they say is like, "Hey, stop freaking out."
And that would be the true today.
Yeah, right. Like stop freaking out. It's okay. I'm not going to kill you. I mean, I could, but I'm not going to. So relax. But like, there's this, don't be afraid, and then the message that gets delivered. And you talked about 500 and something diagnosable phobias or whatever. So
we have are really weird too.
We have to talk about phobias, by the way. So what are you guys afraid of?
Oh, great question.
Are we like?
Give me one regular one and give me one like a weird one, because everybody has. So yeah,
COVID.
You had a thought. I saw it.
I was gonna say, are we doing rational or irrational?
Give me one rational fear and one irrational fear.
Okay. I think my rational one is I don't like being in new places with complete darkness.
Okay, so unfamiliar places in
Like
complete.
basically like not my house. If I'm like very dark, like you can't hardly see, like.
What
just
about
to
up here?
navigate.
I saw Chucky
This
way
place is
too
weird.
many times as a kid.
Are you good up here when it's all dark, or is that
I can
freak you out?
navigate this building.
Yeah.
If you've been in this building at night, you don't
Stuff happens.
you don't want to be here any as longer than you have to be. My irrational fear, though, I do know this off the top of my head, is if you've ever seen a traffic light, they are very big and made of metal.
Yeah, they're heavy. They're
and
big and
very
heavy.
heavy.
Yeah. They're like as tall as a human. Like
They
they're
just-
huge.
They got this like little metal clamp holding them on up there, So it's when they swing right above my car and stuff like that. As I'm driving underneath, I'm like staring at it as it's going up, and I think about it.
I am intrigued.
Just falls in the back.
It's when they swing. It's not like normal, like just like you drive under. If it's just sitting there, I don't ever think.
Okay.
But when it's like windy and they start to swing, when it like if it, I hope that it swings the other way when I'm driving past it.
I think that qualifies as irrational fear.
That's
a good job.
a bit.
Yeah.
Hey, one day he's gonna drive, and as he's going, he's gonna spoof right after
Right
he
into the
goes-
bed of the truck, and then you just keep driving and bring it to us, and then we'll
It
have
is taking
Absolutely.
out the truck.
It's just
think so?
through.
Yes.
It drives straight through.
I think it's going through it. Yeah.
No.
I think I think if they hit your roof, you're.
Oh yeah, I'm talking hitting in the bed of the truck.
But
The roof is just sheet metal.
what do you think the bed of the truck?
Yeah, you're probably
Something's gonna happen to you.
right. Yeah. All right, so you're dark unfamiliar places, and street lights falling on you. What about you fellas?
Go ahead, Dustin.
I mean, I think as I get older, more things start getting like things that didn't used to be on the list is on the list.
These are not family related. So like
No.
just you.
No,
Yeah. You know, like
scared of my kids.
You know, like I'm
Throwing it out.
afraid. People, I'm
You ever have a
nervous.
kid run to you with a toy like this?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
A golf ball.
You
Otto loves to
no.
throw golf balls.
Cell phone. Hey, bring me my cell phone. Whips it. I was like, I mean, it's like not like heights, but like not. I've never really been afraid of heights, but the older I get, the more like fragile I feel like I've become.
Okay, that's probably true. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Clowns.
I might. The ceiling fan fall? Is it the same situation?
Same thing.
The ceiling fan? No, I don't know. Like I know that if it's right above your bed, I know that's probably gonna fall one day, right? I mean, chop me up. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
What kind of ceiling fans you got, man?
Yeah.
Brad, what you got? You afraid of
So
anything?
yeah, I have several fears. I'm not going to lie about it, but my biggest is the fear of heights. Yeah, I'm not a heights guy.
I don't know for some reason I feel like that wouldn't be yours.
Which
if
is
I-
funny
if I
because we go to
get-
the gorge all the time. Like
Oh,
it's
no,
all things we can.
that's
But you
construction.
notice when we hike at the gorge,
You don't-
like I don't get towards the
You do
edge too
not.
much, and ladders and stuff. 8 foot's about it for me. I can do it, but I don't like it. Probably irrational. Man, I don't know. Like that's stuff that would be weird. I have a little bit of a fear of flatulence in front of people that I don't know. Maybe, and that's because like I'm afraid that I'll be meeting the president or something one day and go to reach out and grab and just pass gas. That's a bad one. Or even somebody lesser like the DS or pastors at on
Yeah.
the district or something. So that's probably an irrational one. That's never happened to me, but it probably could.
It could happen.
It could happen. Yeah.
My rational, if I'm claustrophobic, like for real. So I have
Put
a
it in there. That makes
Well, I don't close the door. If you close the door on me in there, well, it opens up, so I'd be all right. But I would still freak out a little bit. Like you were in the elevator when that happened. And it's a real fear.
The funniest.
We don't have to talk about it, but like it was a real fear.
scream for your life and cry like a little girl was one of the funniest moments of my life.
That's what
Instant full body sweat.
Everybody starts sweating
Instantly,
the way he
head to
did.
toe, full body. It was pure terror.
Within 30 seconds, it was
Yeah.
like a normal person, and then just sweating in terror. Like it was.
It was bad.
That would be another irrational, the elevator falling.
You think? No, I'm not afraid of it falling.
No. I know, but we were talking about like the fans, the lights,
Yeah.
an elevator falling.
I don't. I'm not afraid it was gonna fall.
No, I know that. But
I'm
saying
nervous
that would
that
be one.
I'm gonna get stuck in there for hours and hours, and I don't like not being able to get out. That's
Sure.
in my brain. Irrational fear. I have all kinds of irrational fears, probably right. No, I can't think of one off the top of my head, which is so boring. I've been sitting here trying to think about it the whole time.
That's why I went last.
So like,
What if you-
yeah, right.
I came up with the idea for all of you guys.
So,
And
I
I'm
know.
the only one to share a real
You're a
one.
good one.
My current irrational fear it involves flying because it is irrational to be afraid to fly
Yeah.
because air travel is absolutely the
most part.
safest way you can move around. But what else? Irrational fears. Oh yeah, this might be more rational for me, but I'm always afraid I'm going to sleepwalk into like somewhere dangerous and like drown. That's probably not
I
going
mean, you
to
went
happen.
all out there. You don't even live.
I sleepwalked into a lake once when I was a kid. No, I went right into the lake, and then I woke up like waist deep.
Really?
Yeah. My dad was like, "Get back over here." We were night fishing, and I sleptwalked into the lake. I made it to my waist before I woke up. So.
Christina's gonna wake up and he's gonna be trying to swim in the toilet one of these nights.
Yeah.
Taking a shower.
So the point though of the fear, and everybody can relate to being afraid, especially in the moment. But like if you do some research, if you're home, do some research about what a biblical angel looks like, and you'll understand why when humans see them, they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is life altering." And I like something that you had said was that they had options. Like we forget all the time that people in these stories have choices to make. They didn't have to go and work they had to put themselves out to go where people didn't want them to be and probably get abused verbally by some people, right? About like, what are you guys doing here? And they even took a risk professionally, right? I mean,
Sure.
it doesn't,
Yeah.
we don't know what they did. I'm sure they probably had somebody watch it, but it seems, we don't know exactly, right? So they're taking all these risks because an angel told them to, because they believe that's what God's telling them to do, right? And like when you just say that without context, that sounds crazy. And these guys continue to make the choice to do that because it's what they know is right and what they've been told. And like how often we've been talking about this, like it's a kind of it's a little post-COVID thing, but like sometimes it's hard to get people to like go a little extra for something that involves ministry or church. It's almost like if everything else is out of the way, then I'll go to church or then I'll do what God's calling me to do. But if there's any type of thing that inhibits me from doing that, I'm going to back up because then I'm a little nervous. And here's a great example for us, right? When we get nervous about what God's calling us to do. And it's like, yeah, they were afraid and it's okay to be afraid, but it's not okay to let your fear stop you from doing what God has called you to do. Like, I'm sure you're afraid I was terrified when I started youth ministry, and there's all these kids that think you're the coolest person in the world. And like, I'm not that cool, but they think you're really cool. Right. And like, they're looking to you for like leadership, and what you say hits home to them sometimes more so than what their parents tell them. Right. And it's like a lot of responsibility lands on you, but I mean, you've seen the fear and you don't put the fear in the kids, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Good fear.
Some fear's healthy. Some fear's healthy. That's okay.
But there's this. Anytime we're called to do something, ministry, or even come to group. I'm sure you deal with kids or people that walk into church that were afraid that morning that came in, and it's okay to be afraid. It's not okay to let that fear stop us, right? Yeah. Somebody else talk.
Yeah, I mean, fear has the potential to grow us, I think. And if we just are always avoiding it. Like if you were always avoiding traffic lights, you would stay at your house. Right? But
I would find ways around it.
It's true.
No, well, it'd be really tough. But like if we kind of exercise a little bit of courage and we overcome some of that, sometimes we're better for it. If my fear of heights never allowed me to hike at the Red River Gorge, I'd miss out on all of that beauty and wouldn't see some of the stuff that
would be so sad.
It would be very sad, right? It would be an awkward life. So I think we've got to be doing risk management. I like to every now and then I'll pull in a business term into life, but is the reward ultimately worth overcoming your fears?
I mean, I think that's our job as a parent too.
Oh yeah, helping our kids do that.
Like, I don't know if somebody will watch this, but like,
I hope.
Well, yeah, no. Well,
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're debating on if you should share.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
but as parents, I'll just say this: your kids are afraid to do everything. I mean, your kids, and it's like driving. Your kids might be afraid to do it. Swimming. I mean, just picking them up and putting them to a certain height that they don't want to be at.
Yeah.
And it's our job as a parent to say it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm going to make sure that we're going to make it. And I think that the more that we do that with our kids, we see that they'll trust us more because our kids I'm afraid. Don't worry, I'm here with you. Just trust what I'm saying. It works out exactly the way it said.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, I can trust you in this. And it's the same way in a relationship with God. God, I'm afraid. You're telling me to do this.
Yep.
But I am sorry. But I am afraid. I am scared. I don't want to do that. Even to the point of like when, we all have this situation where you're walking out of a grocery store or this, and God's like, I want you to tell that person about Jesus. And you're like, nah, next time.
Do I have to?
Yeah, exactly. Because there's that, I think everybody deals with that.
Yeah.
Or, that because you're afraid. But the more you do whatever you're afraid of, the more confident you become in yourself, the more trustworthy you become of God.
Yeah.
And I think it's always a process.
Yeah.
And fear, and that's why not even just fear, but defeat is good for you. Like if all your life is on roses, on cloud nine, you will never grow.
Yeah.
Your growing never happens on cloud nine. Growing always happens when you lose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so like about something about youth, all that. I don't know. Somebody else. What is it?
So I heard a speaker say one time that the valley makes the mountaintop sweeter.
Huh.
And I think it's that kind of thought process. If we're always on the mountaintop, we miss a lot of that.
We don't grow.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
We're not.
We don't
stretched.
grow. We get
We get complacent.
all of
the hardest group to minister to oftentimes
Are the rich?
or there's people not even what we would consider super rich, but just people that have enough that they don't need to worry about. Like they know they don't have to worry about it, and they know they don't have to worry about it for their kids.
Yeah.
And they're good. And it's hard to convince somebody there that, hey, you need something more than just what you can see or touch. But also with the kids thing, we're there, tell them it's all right, but also telling them which fears are healthy and which fears aren't.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the risk management thing of like, hey, you're right. If you jump off here and I'm right in front of you, I will catch you. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
But if you put your hand on the stove, it's going to hurt, right? So like you should have a healthy fear of that, but also understand that sometimes say you could be doing the same thing. If one of my kids jumped off, they like to get on top of the couch and they'll jump and I'll catch them, right?
Yep.
If I wasn't there, they would hit the ground pretty hard. So at one point, the same action is a good thing to do, even though they're a little bit afraid. And at another point in time, because I'm not there to help them, it's a bad decision. So you have like teaching them where the line is between healthy and unhealthy fear, right?
Yeah. So we had a friend in the church office this morning that had his little daughter with him, and she was not about talking to us at all. Right. We even tried to bribe her with candy.
She warmed up to us toward the end,
but because he kept saying, "Oh, these guys are okay. You're safe here." All of those things.
She's watching him interact with us.
Yes. Yeah. That was that interaction that was great. Now that I'm sure he doesn't want her to just walk up to random strangers with candy and say, "Oh, this is okay."
I'm scared for one of my kids.
But because of that trust and because of that love, it was overcoming her fears, and it was fun to watch.
Yes.
I love about fear, and then Thatcher, he's 6 months old, so he knows nothing.
Yeah.
And I turned the blender on.
He doesn't. He has no. I mean, every noise to him is like, "What's that?"
Yeah. No, exactly. So I turned on. Laura was holding him right by the blender, and I was about to get ready to use the blender, and kids are afraid of the vacuum sound and this.
Bro, blenders are loud.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Like I'm afraid of the blender.
Yeah, and so like I turn it on, and his first reaction, he looks at me to see how I'm going to respond to the blender.
Yeah, it's the flight attendant thing. Yeah.
He responds, yeah. So
Are you freaking out?
when I put a smile on my face, showing him that it's okay, he doesn't freak out about it at all.
Yeah.
Now eventually he will start freaking out because my kids now have to go in the other room because anything loud, you flush the toilet, it's too loud, they have to go in the other room. Yeah. So like, but that's the same way with God. Like when we're walking in things, we look to God like, God, is this okay?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
so then relate that back to ministry. What are some of the biggest ministry fears that we struggle with, or that you see people struggle with? Maybe you don't personally, but that you see other people struggle with.
Well, so I think Dustin hit on one. I think it was Dustin. Sharing our faith is a huge fear. Like you don't know how you're going to be received. You don't know what.
Do you think rejection is the driver of that?
I'd say that's
confrontation, especially in the day we live in now. We don't feel like we don't want it. It's argument. Christ can become argumentative.
Well, and also it could be that you don't want to seem unintelligent in front of people. Sure. So that would be a rejection.
If you feel like you don't have enough knowledge, then what if they ask a question I don't know the answer to?
Yep.
And then I'm in trouble.
So that would be a big one. I think I'd say that's probably the biggest that I see people or get questions about is how do I share my faith? what do I do here? I don't know.
I think we put a lot of stuff on busyness too, or like God calls us and we're like, I don't got time for that.
No, well,
especially like prayer. Like I always find it like amusing because I know I've been in that situation before where people are like, I'll pray for you later. And
just pray for me now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pray now because you won't, because later it's not going to come.
I mean, I never forget anything afterwards, but like, for some people, they have to do things in the moment or they forget.
But it's funny when I need prayer, then I'm like, I'll watch people like take 2 steps forward and then 2 steps back because I know that God dealt with them in that moment where they didn't want to, but they were like, oh, okay. It wasn't like a whatever, but they're like, okay, I know the right thing to do because we're busy. We have somewhere else to be.
Yes. Yeah. It's the right thing to do is set up 3 cameras. You know what I'm saying?
At least 2. I know in this situation.
Inside joke. Yeah.
Sorry, that was for just us in the room. What fears of our youth are around there, Seth? What are the youngins? What do you see in them?
I mean, honestly, I always love like question like they deal with we all deal with the same things, I think, as people. I think
sure.
like teens' problems are kind of the same as adult problems. As adults, there are extra layers to your problems and more responsibilities and things going on. But the teens are kind of dealing with the same thing.
We just dress them up.
Yeah.
Make them sound cooler. I love teens because they'll tell you like exactly what it is.
It's like the same problems, but money is like pretty much like, so it's, yeah. So yeah, I mean, they deal with being judged by everyone around them. Like if they're a Christian, whatever, then if they want, if they're doing, like kids are watching them, and
Seems like they deal with it in a more difficult space because like once you're an adult, you can choose to separate.
yeah.
But like, how
Right.
many kids went to your school when you're? I think I had like 1,200 or something like that. Or,
I had like 900.
yeah. So every day you're put in a room with a building with 1,000 people.
It's not like you get to pick your classes or anything like that, or a lot of times you don't get to pick who you sit by or anything like that in a class. So it's they get judged by people. They all their friends are saying, "Hey, this is cool," or whatever. It's just outside influences like, "Oh, our family does this. We think this is cool," whatever. Like, I'm allowed to do this at my house. Why aren't you allowed to do this at your house? Whatever. That's kind of lame.
Don't you want to be cool?
Kind of deal. Yeah. So, and then they see that kind of stuff, and the internet exposes everyone to just about anything they want to. So it's
In
like,
an instant.
and it's like, okay, not even, like I said, there's teenagers who make lots of money off the internet and stuff like that nowadays, and they see stuff like that, playing video games, whatever it is. Like, why can't I do that? Like, and things, so they get all the same kind of influences.
And like adults look in on that and they look at that and they think, well, that's not as big of a deal as making the payments, or losing your house. And you're right. Like when you put them together, they're not. But if you look at the relative stress to like what they've experienced, the stuff that students go through, a lot of times you're like, oh, your girlfriend just broke up with you, relax. It's like, no. That's the toughest pain that person's ever gone through. Like that's the max of their life stress right now. Like your max might be, I'm going to miss the next house payment, but theirs is here. And then you're both maxed out. So like there has to be a respect for that. Sometimes it's hard for when you get older and you feel like there's heavier things there to appreciate that, like the weight that you feel.
Well, because the
is a
adults
similar weight.
already know the end of the story.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The adults they went through that already, and they know the outcome. But they were in the same exact situation at one point in their life.
It's the sound of the blender to the bankruptcy of your finances, right? Like
You're
Thatcher's,
absolutely right.
Thatcher's sphere of the blender.
Yeah.
Like he looked to you and say, "Oh, I'm going to handle this."
Yeah.
At some point, it's going to happen.
some of your guys, like I don't have kids, but your guys' parents or grandparents, whatever, there's everything. So they're looking at things that you've done probably as a parent or as an adult. Like, oh man, like they worry about this, they're dealing with that. Like, oh yeah, they'll get through that. Like that's the phase that their kids are going through right now or whatever it is, kind of deal. Like,
which is just what some of the best advice I've been given from like my parents is like, hey, it'll be all right. Like as an adult, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
It might not be exactly what you want, but it'll be okay.
Those are my favorite songs where they're writing back to their like the one song that's writing back to the seven. It's gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine.
I think I said a couple weeks ago in a message, like if I could talk to me 10 years ago, I would have told me to calm down.
Chill. And that's really we have biblical examples of that, right? Because that's what the angels do here to the shepherds.
Calm.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Yeah, don't freak out. Don't fear.
Yeah.
I've got great news.
Not only am I not going to kill you,
joys.
I have some really good news.
You're going to want to hear what happens next, right?
But I've
going to follow the
listened
story.
to this for so long that the circle will never end. Adults will tell teens something.
Sure.
Teens are not going to listen, and they'll become the adults, and then they tell the next generation that, and it's a never ending because teens, but it's hard for teens for real because they're trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
Adults are just overgrown teens that they are stuck in a way now.
Yeah.
But teens, until you guys are. I've already told you my feelings on youth ministry. I think it's the hardest
challenge to adults to be as moldable sometimes. It's like when you get older and whatever you're doing maybe is working, or at least it's keeping you treading water, right? And so we just fall into this loop of, well, I go to church on Sunday and maybe I go to a small group or maybe I don't, and I let all these fears of different things keep me from being like who God's really calling me to be, right? And now here I am 55 years old and I'm punching the time card, right?
Sure.
Spiritually, I mean.
Totally.
And an encouragement to people, maybe if you feel like you're there, of, hey, I do need to remember like back in the day when I could maybe have someone talk some sense into me, right? Or maybe at least be open to somebody else's input, or like maybe be open to the idea that I'm not the God of my little kingdom, but rather God's calling me to be a part of his bigger kingdom.
Sure.
But
Totally. And the angels, they do it with the phrase great joy. Oh, and that was, Dustin asked me on Friday night what the title of my sermon was, and fear versus great joy. We've got to look for those moments of peace. We've got to look for what God's doing around us, and just really focus in on that.
I decided your title was Great Joy.
No, it works.
The reason is because it just didn't look right on a thumbnail.
Yeah.
Joy fit.
the reason is
I put-
design issues.
I put fear versus Great Joy, and I didn't like it, so
No.
I just put Great Joy.
You put
No, I
great
love
joy over fear, like a division. Come on now, you
But I,
gotta
was
get.
like, I liked what I did with Great Joy, and I was like, this is what's
Or
good.
you use the greater less than sign. Come on now, you're creative, my brother.
I
Well,
don't got time for that one Saturday night.
it's all good.
He texted me, I was like, what's the name? I was like, I don't know. Talk to Brad.
It's all good.
He already had that plugged in literally in his texting. He just had it sent.
I had typed it.
Yeah, that's-
just waiting.
He already had it. He
No,
already
that's predictive text right there. I don't know. Talk to Brad comes up immediately.
So if you've never heard the story,
Yeah.
shepherds go, they find
Yeah.
they find where they're supposed to go, and they get a front row seat to maybe the second greatest of, or depending on how you, between that and, odd to say, but like the crucifixion and the resurrection, there's like that trio of great moments, like birth, death, and resurrection.
Oh, that's
So, like-
I'm going to pause you for that one because I've got a question in my head.
Okay.
But the four of us, which would you rather be at, the crucifixion or the birth?
I can't pick the resurrection.
No.
Okay.
Those two, crucifixion or
Oh,
birth.
the birth
had. Oh, I can't be at
all-
the resurrection.
all day long.
No.
Yeah, no.
Not the
Birth,
resurrection.
so I don't feel as bad about myself.
Okay.
Like is that a bad answer? Because like the guilt of actually physical. If I think about it enough, I am a wreck. And like watching the Passion of the Christ wrecked me. And
Yeah.
so like if I had to see it literally in person, I don't know if I could like. I don't know how that would. Give me the birth. Babies are
Okay.
cute.
I don't know. That's pretty deep.
Ask me tomorrow. I might change my mind. By the way, but like off the top of my head,
Sunday morning, ask
Yeah.
Joe.
I can't be the resurrection.
no.
I only give it
I know, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Plus, I want to ask Joseph a couple questions because
Okay.
that man has some faith,
Yeah.
some serious faith.
Yeah.
And I want to pick that brain a little bit.
Crucifixion.
This guy.
Because then
I knew he was gonna pick that.
I get to see the skies turn.
That's what
I
Ooh.
get to see the earth quake. I get to see God really like super move.
Yeah,
I get to see
that's a good
like,
point.
I get to hear Jesus speak in that moment too. Like
Ooh.
you get to hear like Jesus as a baby cry, which would be pretty cool.
But
if
you
think
get to
about
see
that.
like
But just hearing him speak, like the last words there.
You guys are
I-
changing my mind right now.
So
Yeah.
I'm really conflicted between the two
You get to
because
talk to John and Mary.
I think
Am I-
there's,
I'm changing my mind.
am I a
Sorry.
believer or am I? I'm just kidding.
well, I'm
I'm
conflicted.
be a believer.
I'm conflicted between the two because there's so much confusion in both moments. And that's why I don't think the resurrection plays into that, because at the resurrection, like,
It's the victory.
oh, it's
lap.
done.
It's the
Yeah,
victory.
like
lap.
we're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
But at the birth, like this is
They don't know.
the start, and it's the Savior.
Yeah.
It's the Messiah. He's going to be King. He's
But
he's
in-
the Prince of Peace. All of
Yeah.
these things.
In that moment, they don't know that he's
No.
not going to just grow up to be a regular person.
But
and then the confusion,
like, they
the
don't know that.
confusion of the crucifixion. Like, oh, we thought this was the guy,
the
but
hurt and the
but
pain.
he's dead now. Like,
Yeah.
what's happening?
I mean, the birth is peace, right?
The
The,
birth
birth would be so much more
yeah.
peaceful.
I think it
Be
would
a
be.
calm
That's where I went.
paradise,
I went for the peace.
So much peace.
Yeah.
The other one would
Besides
be a
Mary.
lot more a lot
or
more
Mary.
upright,
Yeah.
roaring, a lot more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Man, it's two similar moments, but really different views. I don't know.
I
It'd
would,
be- I
crucifixion.
think I would want to maybe the crucifixion, but
I think you guys changed, especially if I'm going to be coming back to this time.
Yeah.
And then I can like tell, then the crucifixion.
I get to come back to this time.
Yeah. It's like then it's like you're talking for real. Like, the sky goes dark and the earth literally shakes. It's like, oh, something significant.
Jesus.
yeah,
to
maybe
me,
this.
like,
The veil gets rent into
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And
It'd be fun to like look around and be like, you guys, You have no idea what's about to happen. Like y'all better buckle down.
Yeah.
Like hang on to something, guys. Like what? Nothing's happening. Then it starts to shake. Like I told y'all I was coming.
Especially if you knew.
Hey, yeah, if you do.
If you knew, then the crucifixion is the it's so over moment, and then you get to be like, guys, the we're so back moment's coming.
Like, my whole
resurrection.
Just sit there while they're rolling the stone over. Like you don't need to waste your time on that, guys. Like it's not gonna work.
You go to Joseph.
Put a second one
in his tomb. Like you don't even have to, bro. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Feel like no, it has to be fulfilled. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to heckle the guards.
You guys got another one?
Yeah.
Hey, who's just gonna be in front of the guards? You?
Yeah. Hey man, keep your head up on a swivel.
On a swivel.
Head on a swivel.
Put a line in the sand to make sure it moves or not.
Yeah. They go hard. Just pull out.
Oh, you're only using one guard? You better get some more.
A modern day like the fold out chair, and like as soon as the resurrection's over, you walk right to where the tomb is and just set it down and just sit down. And like, what are you doing?
Just waiting for waiting for the women.
Yeah.
Waiting for the two women to
I just want a front row seat here.
3 days later.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm sorry.
No.
That's a good question. I have never thought about
So
that.
I love weird thought processes like that because it takes us out of the normal, like, ways we view with the nativity and with the the Easter story and all that stuff. I mean, Scripture is very much divinely written, and a lot of things are black and white, but there's a lot of details that it doesn't fill in for us.
Yeah.
And if we're not critically asking questions or thinking about things, we miss a lot that we don't get. But the shepherds, they heard the gospel from the angels, they acted on it, then they got to go experience
And
it.
then after that,
Yeah.
they go back to shepherding.
Right.
But
But it's
they tell people like they don't hide it, but they go back to all right, guess we should go back to our sheep now. Like that's okay. Like life is never they peaked, like that is peak. Like they're gonna be 70-year-olds if they make it that far and be like, you guys remember that time when we were just chilling out here and like that happened.
Yeah, but I think the big thing is they were never the same because of that.
No
peak.
way.
Right? Like, hey, you remember that night that we saw the flames and the angels and like the shouts and a little baby like that?
It probably sounded crazy when they went back.
Yeah.
And I mean, depending on their age, they could have lived long enough for the crucifixion and resurrection. Like some of them could still have been alive.
Yeah, maybe.
And so maybe some of them are, maybe they make that connection.
I told you.
Yeah. Seriously, like some of them could have got to, we just said, which would you rather be at? We don't know that some of those people couldn't have been at both.
Oh, that's a good. Yeah.
Like,
I wish I knew that geography well enough to know how far Bethlehem was from Jerusalem.
I mean, it's all not that.
I have a map.
far.
It's not that far. I mean, it's
It couldn't be, but travel in that time. But still,
you're probably
no.
following
they're
the line,
wondering.
right?
Maybe.
You're
I mean,
probably
they're
following
no
the line.
kind of wanderers anyway, right? I mean, not I mean,
nomads,
but like,
yeah.
and do shepherds
I mean,
retire?
I think it's like Galilee to Judea was like a 3-day walk back then. So
It's possible. I'm just putting it out there. I have nothing to say it actually happened, but it is possible that they could have been at both. Pretty cool.
Well, that was good.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, you did a great job, Brad. Thank you for preaching.
Yes.
Yeah, this upcoming week, if you guys are watching this, is our children's program, which is one of my favorite Sundays of the week. Our kids, our Sundays of the week, Sundays of the year, where our kids minister to us. It's pretty cool. So come out, check out the children's play this week, and then we have some more Christmas sermons coming at you. But we'll be here not next week because there won't be a sermon next week.
Not
I guess
next week, and we'll try the week after. We just see what happens because I'll be out of town.
Yeah.
The Christmas. We hope everybody has a good Christmas. Whether
Yes,
we
if
see
we don't see you
if we
before
see you
the-
in 2 weeks, or we see you in next month, because we know it's busy for everybody.
Yeah.
But thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you later.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Merry Christmas, y'all.